You don't invest because you're smart, you invest because you're scared. Scared that what you earn isn't enough. Scared that time is slipping faster than your income. And scared that the system, even though you don't trust it, still owns your future. So you do what you're told. You make your money work for you. You max out your Roth. You dollar cost average. You diversify. Because somewhere deep down, you're hoping that if you just follow the plan, you'll escape the trap that you were born into. Now, not with power, not with clarity, but with enough numbers on a screen to finally feel safe. But what if I told you the whole concept of investing, the way that it's sold to you, is a trap on its own? Now, not because investing is bad, but because the money you're investing with is broken. And when the base layer is corrupt, the returns don't save you. They just delay the theft. Now, if you've ever felt like you've done everything right and still falling behind, well, this isn't a flaw in your strategy. It's a clue. So before you invest another dollar, you need to see what you're really buying into. Because the system doesn't reward your intelligence, it rewards your obedience. And it's time to stop playing by the rules of a game you were never meant to win. Now, if you want to understand this system a little bit better, then come and check out my ebook linked down below. It's called They Print, You Lose. And if you want the physical copy of a paperback or hardcover, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of this page, you'll also find a link to that over on Amazon. See, we've been taught to see investing as a solution, a path to freedom, a responsible adult decision. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't investing to grow wealth, they're investing to survive inflation. Now, they're not building dreams, they're plugging leaks. So think about it. If the dollar didn't rot, and if your savings held value over time, would you need to chase 8% annual returns just to stay afloat? Would you gamble your future in a market you don't control and run by insiders that you don't trust? Well, you'd probably say no. You'd store your value and live your life. You would build from a foundation that didn't need constant defense. But that's not the world you were born into. You were born into a system that steals and robs you quietly. And that's why they don't teach monetary history in school. And that's why inflation is framed as healthy. And that's why you're praised for participating in a casino while being punished for sitting in cash. Now, not because it's wise, but because it's profitable. And for them. So let's get clear. Investment is not the issue. The denominator is the issue. Because you're measuring success in a unit that is decaying, and you're stacking numbers in a currency that doesn't hold truth. See, the dollar is not a constant. It's a melting scoreboard. And you're playing for points while the game pieces vanish behind your back. They print, you invest. They dilute, you hustle harder. Now, this isn't economics, it's engineered codependency. And they sold you on compound interest, while they compound the money supply. They taught you to defer life for 40 years, while they rewrite the rules mid-game. And when it all falls apart, well, they bail out Wall Street. They devalue the dollar, and they tell you to stay the course. But you are not building wealth. You're building trust in a rigged machine. So let's walk through the average investor's journey. You get a job. You make decent money. You don't want to be broke at 65, so you open an investment account, a 401k, a Roth, an index fund, or whatever. Now you pick a strategy, you automate it, and you check your balance, maybe once a quarter. Now it feels like progress because you're doing what smart people do. But here's the catch. What are you actually investing in? A stock, a diversified portfolio, or a system that quietly steals the foundation of every dollar you earn? Because here's what most people miss. A return in a melting currency is not a return. If your account goes up 8%, but inflation is running at 10%, you lost, even if it looks like you won. You just got taxed, without paperwork, without permission, and by the simple fact that your wealth is dominated in debt-based fiat. And this is why the rich don't save in dollars. They buy assets, they hold gold, they move into Bitcoin. Because they know the base layer is a lie, and they refuse to play the game with fake chips. See, have you ever looked at your investment account and thought, this should feel better than it does? Because you've been putting money away, maybe not perfectly, but consistently. You skipped the flashy stuff. You followed the rules, index funds, long-term mindset, trust the process. But here you are, years in, and it still feels fragile. Like one emergency could wipe out your progress. Like the goalpost keeps moving, just fast enough to stay out of reach. Now your account balance says you're doing okay, but your stress levels don't agree. Rent is higher. Groceries are insane, and insurance costs more, gas costs more, even your coffee is quietly robbing you. So you start to wonder, if I'm doing everything right, why does it feel like I'm losing? And that feeling, well, it's not failure, it's your instinct telling you you're playing a rigged game, and deep down you know it. So let's go ahead and flip the question. Don't ask what's the best thing to invest in. Ask what holds value when the foundation is fiction. Because if the base layer is trust, it can be broken. If the base layer is promises, it can be revoked. And if the base layer is political, it will always be manipulated. But if the base layer is math, if it's physics, if it's energy, then you don't need to ask permission. You just need to opt in. And that's what Bitcoin represents. Now, not a get-rich-quick scheme, not a crypto trade, but a refusal to store your time in a bucket full of holes, a refusal to accept theft as economics, and a refusal to let your life energy be measured in monopoly money. Now, Bitcoin doesn't give you freedom, it stops stealing it. So what does this practically mean? Well, it means don't just invest because that's what you're supposed to do. Ask what you're building, ask what you're trusting, and ask what your returns are measured in. Because if the dollar fails, and history says it will, all your charts, all your diversification, all your 60-40 portfolios won't mean a thing. But a SAT, a single Bitcoin, well, that's not just a number, it's stored energy, unprintable value, and a bet on a future that isn't rigged from the start. And it's quietly happening, quietly and globally. So before you invest another dollar, ask yourself one question. Am I investing in assets that grow, or am I feeding a system that grows by draining me? Now, you don't need more advice. You need a new lens, and you don't need another investment strategy. You need to decide what you're willing to believe in. Because when the foundation changes, everything built on top of it must change too. And if you want sovereignty, you don't invest in hope, you store it in truth. Now, if you've made it this far and you're not too sure what to watch next, then I have this playlist right here that you can check out, or you can watch this video right here, which is recommended by YouTube.